Hey guys, it's Irina. Welcome back to Fantastic Korean Dishes, where we cook up simple but delicious Korean meals. Today, we're going to be making Sogogi Beoseot Jeongol, or also known as beef mushroom hot pot. It's one of the popular recipes for hot pot in Korea because it's got a very mild flavor. It's got tons of vegetables in it and a bit of beef. It's great for the entire family because it is so healthy. And today I'm going to teach you a recipe that is so easy. And oftentimes when people cook up hot pot, it's usually served in a communal pot. So it's a great dish to serve when you're inviting people over. All right, everyone, if you're ready, let's get cooking. All right, so now I'm going to prep all the veggies and all the ingredients that are going to go into our hot pot. We're going to need some Korean radish. We're going to need about 100 grams of this. So I'm just going to cut it at an angle. So you can cut this into rectangular shapes if you like, but I personally like to cut it at kind of like an angle, and it's like as if you're sharpening a pencil with a knife. I don't know if many of you have done that before, but I do that a lot with my eyebrow pencil. So the shaved off pieces are not going to be exactly the same, but that's what you want. Now the reason we're doing this is so we get a lot of angles on the radish, because the radish releases a lot of flavor into the broth. So everything is a little bit different. So this hot pot obviously needs a lot of mushrooms. I personally like using different kinds of mushrooms. Today I'm going to be using 3 different kinds. We're going to be using shiitake, king oyster, and just oyster. But really, you can change it up to whatever kind of mushroom you like. Mushrooms are so good and they go so well with beef. So I'm going to first cut up this shiitake mushroom. So you want to just use your hands to pull out the stem. We're just going to cut off the very end. It looks like it has like a bit of dirt. And then we're going to just slice the mushrooms at about 0.5 centimeters in thickness. And they kind of look like half moons. Next, we're going to cut up a king oyster mushroom. I just like to cut these in rounds. Again, similar width, maybe about 0.5 centimeters in thickness is good. Oh, we've got one rolling off. Personally, I love using king oyster mushrooms in hot pot because it has a really chewy texture, and so it brings out different textures. All mushrooms are very, very different, but this particular one is quite chewy. It's really nice in hot pot. Next, I'm going to put in some oyster mushrooms. These are about 80 grams. And with these, I'm just going to split them apart with my hands. And these come apart quite easily. Okay, so the mushrooms are all done. Next, we're going to need about 1/5 of a carrot. This is actually a bit too much, so I'm going to cut it in half. And then I'm going to slice it at about 0.5 centimeters in thickness, but I'm going to cut it on a diagonal. And carrots are great because not only do they add like a pop of color, but also they are so nutritious. They look like sort of long half moons like this. Next, we're going to need 2 leaves of a napa cabbage. Now, cabbage is great to add into soups because they add like a crisp, clean flavor. So what we're going to do is we're going to cut the cabbage right down the middle. So you'll end up with something like this. And because the cabbage is quite thick in the middle, what we're going to do is we're going to slice it on an angle. So we slice kind of through, and it makes the thick part a little bit thinner. So we're kind of like shaving it off. So you're making the white part a lot thinner. And you don't necessarily have to do this, but it is just going to make it much easier to cook and eat later. Next, we're going to put in some onions. We're going to need 1/6 of an onion. So this is a bit too much. I'm just going to cut half. And we're gonna just slice it thinly. We're gonna julienne it. Okay, so you get thin slices like this. Next, you're gonna need about 1 stem of an Asian leek. If you don't have Asian leeks, you can use green onions. And I'm just gonna cut at a diagonal. That way we get a longer shape. It's long, but it's still thin. And it's kind of relatively the same thickness as everything else. Next, you're gonna need about 30 grams of crown daisy. So this is what crown daisy looks like. You can probably get it at a Korean supermarket or Chinese supermarket. So the bottom part of the crown daisy is quite thick. So we're gonna just take off the tender leaves at the bottom and join them together like so. And then you'll have something like this. It's gonna be bare at the bottom, and we're just gonna cut this off. If you are gonna take a long time cooking and prepping other ingredients, you might wanna put the crown daisy in a bowl of cold water like this. And then they're gonna stay nice and crispy and hydrated. Next, we're gonna need about 300 grams of beef. Today I'm using sirloin, and I have it thinly sliced. This is quite big, so I'm gonna actually cut it in half, right down the middle. And then I'm going to roll it up. So I'm gonna take 1 piece, roll it, and you'll get something like this. And then we're gonna fold it so you have this U shape. Now the reason why we're doing this is just so if you just put the pieces of beef into the hot pot, it looks quite messy. So this makes everything look a lot neater. It's also much easier to eat. It's much easier to grab a hold of with your chopsticks. Now we're gonna make the broth, and this is gonna be the easiest broth you will have ever laid your eyes on. It is so easy. So we're gonna take about 500 milliliters of water. Next, we're gonna 4 teaspoons of vegetable umami. Now, vegetable umami has the fermented ingredients from soy sauce, but it also contains vegetable broth inside. So it has a very deep and rich flavor to it. So when you are making your hot pot, because you leave it open, you leave the lid off, oftentimes the broth ends up evaporating. So this is really simple to make. So if you feel like there's not enough liquid in the hot pot, you could just quickly make one of these. And of course, hot pot is not the same without the delicious sauces that come with it. Today we're gonna be making 2 different types of sauces. The first is a soy sauce and mustard based sauce. We're gonna take 1 tablespoon of soy sauce, 1 tablespoon of water. So water soy sauce ratio is 1 to 1. And half a tablespoon of Korean mustard sauce. And then we're gonna give it a good stir. Just make sure you use your spoon to really melt the mustard. You don't want any chunks. You want it to have a nice, smooth consistency. It looks good. Okay. Yummy. Salty, but it's got a nice kick from the mustard. Okay, next, we're gonna make a sesame seed sauce, 2 tablespoons of vegetable umami, 1 tablespoon of crushed sesame seeds, and finally 1 teaspoon of sesame seed oil. And we're gonna give that a nice mix. Okay, and we have 2 delicious but very different sauces. I'm gonna take maybe about 1 tablespoon of oil, and I'm just gonna grease the pot and make sure that the oil is distributed evenly. So once it's hot, we're gonna add in our oyster mushrooms first. I'm gonna take some chopsticks and give this a nice mix. Next, we're gonna add the rest of our mushrooms, so our king oyster mushrooms, along with our shiitake mushrooms. And we're gonna stir fry them just for a few minutes until we have some of the moisture in the mushrooms evaporate. And the mushrooms are starting to turn a bit golden. and brown on the edges. Next, we're gonna add in the radish. And radishes have a ton of water in them. So now it's gonna release a lot of water into the pot. Smells so good. Next, we're gonna add in the napa cabbage and stir fry that just for about a minute. And then we're gonna add in the rest of our ingredients. So we're gonna put in our carrots, onions, and Asian leek. So you don't want the vegetables to be fully cooked. You just wanna get that flavor going. So I think everything's kind of been coated with a little bit of oil. Everything's been cooked a little bit. We're gonna add the broth. I'm gonna put the heat up on high and then add the broth. Once it comes to a boil, you can add the meat now. And I'm gonna lay them nice and neatly just on one side. Move the vegetables over to one side. It looks really nice. The presentation is beautiful, but also it's very easy to eat. We're gonna add in the crown daisy at the very end. And this cooks super fast. And we're done. I'm gonna turn the heat off. Okay, let's try some of this. Okay, I'm gonna take a bit of the crown daisy and a mushroom. Let's try these first. I'm gonna dip it in the sesame sauce first. It's savory, but also it has a bit of nuttiness from the sesame seeds. This sauce is so good. Okay, let's try the beef. That looks so good. Should we try the mustard sauce? The beef is perfect because we didn't overcook it. It's still so tender. And the mustard sauce, it's savory, salty, but has a little bit of a kick from the mustard. It's not too spicy. That is so good. So that is it for our Sogogi Beoseot Jeongol recipe. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It is so easy and it's definitely going to be a hit with all your guests. And it is so healthy. So it's great for the entire family as well. So give it a try at home. I'll be back next time with more fantastic Korean recipes. Till next time, stay happy, stay healthy, and I'll see you soon. Bye!